Welcome to Faith Positive Radio with Dr. Joey Fawcett, the Christian business coaching conversation that increases your faith with greater joy at work so you love God and others more. Dr. Joey interviews Christian business professionals just like you to discover their secrets for working faith positive in a negative world. Welcome to Faith Positive Radio with Dr. Joey Fawcett.
Faith Positive Nation, we all find ourselves in situations that we never thought we'd find ourselves in. Only some of those are, they're more noteworthy or gain more notoriety. And sometimes you're just where God wants you at the time God wants you. So you have an opportunity to serve or not to serve. And those decisions are made in split seconds. And so really those decisions are made ahead of time, right? And you just choose whether or not to act and how to act in that situation. Today's guest, Faith Positive Nation, is an incredible example of making those decisions ahead of time and really acting in that moment and letting your faith shine through. Today's guest, Faith Positive Nation, was the last guy off the plane, right? Last passenger off the plane that crashed 10 years ago. This is 2018. It crashed 10 years ago in the Hudson River. Maybe you remember that. I suspect you do. Faith Positive Nation, help me welcome Dave Sanderson. Dave, what a privilege to have you on Faith Positive Radio today, buddy.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, thank you, Dave. So you're just flying along in this plane, right?
Nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, I was into a 3-day business trip in New York. We started in Sarasota, Florida, went to Petersburg, Virginia, and then ended up in Brooklyn. And we were in a distribution center in the plant. And I don't know if anybody who's listening has ever either worked in a distribution center or a manufacturing environment, but they normally open up quite early in the morning, as this one opened up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
So their heavy shift started like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So we wanted to be there to see the action where it's all going down. So we started our day about 5, and we got done about 10. So I wanted to get home sooner because I scheduled the 5 o'clock flight. I always schedule the last flight out because you just never know how the day is going to go. But
right.
So I called a travel agent at 10 o'clock that morning, and she put me on US Airways Flight 1549. So I think God wanted me on that plane for a reason. And at that point, I didn't know why, but I was on that plane.
Right. And so you're just flying along, taking off, right? Was this out of LaGuardia?
Out of LaGuardia, nothing extraordinary. It was 11 degrees and snowing that day, but it's New York in winter, so it's no big deal. It's just
right.
It's a normal day in travel, and I was one of the first set of passengers to board the plane because I was a top tier at US Airways because I traveled over 100,000 miles a year. So I went to my seat. I was in seat 15A. That's 4 rows behind that left wing, and I did exactly what I did every single time we got on the plane then.
What did you do?
Put my briefcase down, put my wallet in the briefcase, pulled the magazine out, and I started to read. I didn't pay attention. I didn't know where the exits were. I didn't read that little brochure like I always tell you to read. But I tell people,
reads those brochures anyway.
And every plane's different, so I actually do it now. But back then,
Okay.
I put my head down, did exactly what I used to do.
And the next thing you know, what's happening?
About 60 to 70 seconds after we took off is when I heard an explosion. And I never heard anything on a plane like that before, but so, sort of got my attention. So I sort of looked up, I looked out the window, and I saw fire coming out from underneath the left wing. So, I knew something had happened, but, I fly so often, that plane lost an engine. So, I know planes have multiple engines. And I tell people, I think that's where God's grace entered for the first moment in this flight, because no one on the plane knew on that moment what happened on the left side where I was sitting, also happened on the right side at the simultaneously, at the exact same second.
Wow.
I truly believe if you would have heard bang, bang, then people would have said, uh-oh, terrorist attack, something.
Yeah.
We heard bang, so everybody thought, okay, we have another engine. He's banking, just going back to the airport, no big deal.
But it turned out to be a big deal after all.
It did turn out because as he was banking, he wasn't banking to go back to the airport. He was banking to go over to George Washington Bridge, and that's the moment that when he said his famous words, "This is your captain, brace for impact," that was the moment I think everybody understood this probably a pretty serious situation because, he cleared the bridge. The bridge is roughly 600 feet up. He was roughly cleared the bridge by 400 feet. So he was roughly 900 to 1,000 feet at that point descending. And as he was descending, and I looked out the window, you could see people's faces looking up at you. And you're looking down, and they're looking up. I was like, we're pretty close.
You're
this thing's going down.
Yeah, really, really close. And so you heard those fatal words, brace for impact. What'd you do to brace for impact, Dave?
Well, I didn't pay attention to instruction. Like I said, I didn't know how to brace. But the first thing I did is I prayed.
Mm.
First thing I prayed for, whoever that dude was up front, man, just get me down in one piece. I just remember people's body parts, right? And I said, just get me down in one piece.
Mm.
The second thing I prayed for is I said, the last person I spoke with, who was my client up in Brooklyn, to call my wife to tell her that I loved her. And third thing is I prayed to God to forgive my sins.
Oh,
I don't want anything to be in God at this point, right? We're going down. I want to go up. And I tell people it ain't looking good at this point in time. So I needed to clear all the decks, right? We need to have that talk right now.
Uh-huh.
Get it done so I can at least know where I'm going.
That's exactly right.
I just brace like I try to everybody braces her down, but that's pretty much what it was.
So what do you remember next after the impact?
Well, I tell people the impact was hard, but the question I get a lot is, what was it between the time when we crossed over to the time we crashed? About 60 to 70 seconds. And I tell people that was amazing time because time really did slow down. And I really didn't realize what happened. Because I saw the movie of my life going through my eyes. I could see with clarity.
Wow.
And so I had a friend who survived the earthquake in Haiti. And she was under the rubble for about six hours, I think it was, or 7 hours. Got her out, and she and I spoke. We were in Charlotte together. We were speaking. We went to a room. It was like, I said, Pam, what was it like? She goes, I saw the movie of my life. I said, that's exactly what I saw with clarity. And I knew at that point what my mission on why I was here. And I tell people that's an amazing feeling, but you're not coming back. So, it's like now I understand why I'm here. When we hit, it was a hard hit. I mean, he hit it perfectly, as we know. If you saw the movie, he did a fabulous job. I'll be forever grateful to the crew. But I went back in my seat and up my seat. And when I came back up, I looked out the window and I saw light. So I knew I had a shot, but that's when water started coming in immediately. So now you have another issue you got to deal with. So You're down, you survived. Now you got to get out of water, which is 36-degree water, and it's rising quickly. And as you saw, the plane was situated at an angle sort of like this. And water, I was towards the back of the plane, so water started coming in quickly back here, less up here, and all of a sudden it started going down, and water started I was about knee deep in water when I first stood up.
Wow, when you first stood up, you were knee deep in water. So what'd you do when you stood up and said, water's coming in, we got to move? My
game plan, and it was get to the aisle, get up and get out. Because when we were going down, I said, if I survive this thing, I got to get out of here. So I said, aisle up, out. But when I got to the aisle, it was an amazing thing that happened to me. That's when everything, I think, when God's providence came to me. Because, my mother passed away in 1997, but there was something she would tell me when I was a child that all of a sudden I heard in my head, and it was, if you do the right thing, God will take care of you. And I tell people, I didn't realize this for a number of years, but over the last couple of years, I started thinking, my mother never told me what to do. She always made me make a choice, which is something I think as parents we don't do enough of today. I'm one of those, I wish I made my kids make more choices so they could have consequences. But my mother would never tell us. So it was my choice. I could leave, but I grew up in a small town and we're with a group of guys, and we always had each other's backs. And so that's why I went towards the back of the plane. I climbed back the seats to the back of the plane and got behind everybody and started making my way out with everybody else. And you're about chest deep in the water at that point. And first light that I saw was on the right, and it turned out to be 10F on the right. So I was like, I'm out of here. I'm jumping out like everybody else. But what happened was I started getting out, but there was no room on the wing. I saw people standing on the wing. There's no room on the lifeboat. It was filled up. So that's why I was inside the plane for about 7 minutes, waist deep in 36-degree water, because I couldn't get out. And what happened was the plane was actually floating down the river all because of the current. So a little lifeboat was floating out, and I tell people, who reads the brochure? Man, no one reads the brochure.
Right.
Actually tethered to the plane. So I didn't know that. So I was holding on. There's a picture that was on Good Morning America of me holding on to the lifeboat close to the wing so they could get out on the wing to walk down the wing, and with water up to my basically chest, waist chest level, holding the plane like this about 7 minutes.
Wow. So do you remember at all making that decision to do the right thing?
I do. At the moment I did, but later that night is when everything started coming back to me. little pieces started coming back when I started seeing things on TV and I was on interviews and all of a sudden I remember my mother's voice in my head. Do the right thing. And candidly, I think she would have been proud of me either way, right?
Yeah.
But, I think I did the right thing, because, I knew I was alive. I didn't know if anybody else in the back was alive. People were walking down, right? And so the people were moving. But what if somebody needed some help? What if somebody and I was fine. So I feel like I was there for a reason. God put me on that plane for a reason because candidly, I was in first class on a 5 o'clock flight. I was in seat 15A. I always flew first class because of my status.
Right.
I think God wanted each of us in a certain place in that plane. I tell people, I think this thing was staged by God.
Wow. For his glory.
Why would it happen that way? The busiest city in the world, at the busiest time in the world, right? And all of a sudden you have a plane that goes down and things weren't going well in 2009. I mean, it was pretty negative.
Yes, very.
God's like, say, okay, if I have to show you what a miracle's like, I'm going to show you a miracle.
That's right.
Right?
Right.
Exactly what happened.
It's exactly what happened. What do you remember about your fellow passengers?
Well, I think everybody made the right choice for themselves. I mean, some people had to get out. Some people, help people get out on the wings. So I tell people it's a great example of how 155 people who didn't know each other, who didn't care about each other, how you can come together as a team very quickly when you have a common mission. And you check your egos at the door.
Because survival was the name of the game.
That's right. Check your egos. And one thing you realize when you're going down in a plane, it doesn't matter if you're the CEO of Time Warner and I'm the lowly janitor. Everybody's the same. Everybody, no one's better than anybody else when you're going down. We all got a common interest.
So you watched all the passengers get off the plane.
Most of them from the back, at least from the back of the plane.
Right, right. And so then it became your turn. What happened then?
Well, what happened was I was holding on to this little lifeboat and things were going on, and I didn't know what really transpired. I knew what happened to me, but I found out how it transpired later. I felt the plane shift. And when the plane shifted, I felt water going up my back because it was like rocking and water was like sloshing back and forth. And first thing I thought was Titanic. This thing's going down. I mean, we're 6-7 minutes into this thing. It's like this already, right? Going down. I thought, man, don't be stuck down in a plane. I mean, because if you remember the movie Titanic, I tell people the thing tips up and it's everything down a vacuum. That's
right.
I said, don't. But what happened was there was a tugboat that was on the rescue, was backing out. He nudged the plane. When he nudged the plane, so it shook the plane. That's how it happened. That's where I felt. So that's when I said, I'm out of here. And that's when I jumped in and started swimming to the closest boat that I could find. And I had to swim in 36-degree water all the way to basically the length of the wing to the ferry that was at the end of the wing. That's how I got off the plane. And now they yell and get up, climb, climb, climb. And I yelled up, can't. And then my mom started talking to me again because the word my mom hated in life was the word can't. If you grew up in our house, he said, I can't. And my mom said, if you can't do it, you're going to do it. See, my mother's, after she passed away, I found out her worldview. I didn't know this while she was alive. Was if you can't, you must. She would not accept the word can't. So I got one arm up and got the other arm up, and two people pulled me. I don't know who these two gentlemen are, and threw me over the side. And that's how I got out of the river, and that's how everything started to change for me at that moment.
So then the real change occurred because all of a sudden you're the object of media interest and you're on all these shows and what have you. So what was that whole period like?
That was a crazy moment because I didn't have anybody to really be my buffer. I had somebody at US Airways sort of help me through that side of the equation, right? They did a fabulous job. But my family was more affected by that because I was just getting inundated. Plus, I had to go back to work.
You do have a day job,
I had to go back to work and all this stuff's going on. So it was, and I didn't have a PC. I mean, it was like you had to sort of start from scratch again, right? But it was, I was honored to be on these shows. But I think the real change came for me the following week because I was on it, but candidly, I was on about every channel. The only channel I didn't like this, I did not do MSNBC. I didn't do CNN. I did pretty much every other channel, right? So, but the following week, what happened, that Sunday I went to church. And I tell everybody wanted to talk to me, right? I mean, here I am on TV, right? Everybody wants to talk to me, right? But I tell people there was one guy who really wanted to talk to me, and he was in charge of men's breakfast at our church. And he just came up and said, Dave, will you speak at men's breakfast next Sunday? And my thought was, no problem, man. 50 old guys eating pancakes, right? No big deal, right? It's a walk in the park, right? I'll show up, do my thing, and I eat and have some pancakes.
50 old guys eating pancakes. I take it there are a few more than 50 old guys there.
What happened was I did not know because I was all over the place, right, that week.
Right.
They advertised it around Charlotte.
Uh-huh.
And all of a sudden, 500-600 people showed up.
Oh,
and they
wow.
ran out of pancakes. And I tell people, I have hungry, angry Methodists on my hands, right? I mean, I tell people, it might be all right for Baptists and Episcopalians, man. It might be okay, but if you're a Methodist, you say you're going to have food, you better have food.
That's it, especially pancakes, right?
Exactly. So now I don't know what I'm going to do. So I go behind the curtain. I said, God, give me something to say.
Wow.
Give me something to say. And he gave me something to say. And I get done speaking. So you got to visualize. They moved it from a little room to the gym. And our gym is like a gym and a stage kind of thing. That's our gym set up at our church, right? Curtain right here and all that stuff.
Yep.
And so when I get done speaking, I talking to people. A couple guys want to talk to me. I tell you, that's not that big a deal, right?
Right.
I looked in the back of the room, and we're not talking gym length. And there's this elderly lady just locking me down. And just staring at me, right? Just staring me down. But she caught my eye. As soon as I looked at her, she starts making her way up, right? Takes a hard left and interrupts the conversation and grabs me. And I'm like, whoa. Like, now people are grabbing me, but what's going on now, right?
Yeah, really.
She looked me in the eye and said something that changed everything. She looked me in the eye and said, I was questioning if there really is a God. I don't believe in miracles. She said, but you're a physical evidence that there's a God, and he does miracles. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, wow, Dave.
All of a sudden, she just looks at me in the eye one more time. These two men I'm talking to are crying. I've never seen two men cry like this. My minister was behind me. And I'm looking at him like, well, what's going on? But I started realizing a few seconds later what happened to me that day, it impacted somebody who now believes there's a God who does miracles because I'm physical evidence. And that set me on my course because I think some people in life have to have a physical evidence. You have to see it. They don't, it's like the Thomas story, right?
Yeah.
You only believe because you saw it.
That's right. You want to touch some hands and feet, right?
Exactly. And I have to show you everything, right? Those people who believe you weren't there, but she needed physical evidence. And maybe she was an angel. I don't know what she was.
But she set you off on a new course.
Changed everything. Changed the whole direction of my life, that moment.
Wow. So how do you go to work the next day having had that experience with that woman?
I knew at that moment I had to get out.
Okay.
But I still had to make money. I had 4 kids to get through college, right? And I was making decent money. So I had to get a game plan together, but I had so many of these kind of instances were going on all around the country. I mean, from, people people who come up to me and tell me their life stories, or somebody who wants me to put my hands on them. I mean, it was like it was crazy.
Wow.
I think people were looking at that point in time, it was such a negative time. People were looking for something positive to cling on to, and they could visually see. It's like a movie. Watched it, and all of a sudden now you're touching somebody who's in the middle of a miracle. I think people are having that kind of reaction. But, I think one of the big things that changed, I know there's a lot of things that changed. One thing that really sort of set me off was when I invited my minister to, I was invited to be the keynote speaker at 9/11 services here, which was a big deal. I mean, 9/11, solemn, right? And I had the connection with New York, right? So I was like, and so I told my minister, his name's Ken Carter, I said, Ken, you never see me outside the church, right? Let's go see me in public, right? So he drove out to this place, I'd speak, and we could go out, come back to the car. He says, you know what? He says, in the Methodist faith, we believe there's one baptism into Jesus. He says, like, you went in the water, and all of a sudden you came out, and like everything opened up. He said, I don't believe you had another baptism, but I do think this whole thing opened up. And that was God's message. And whoa.
Wow.
And that's when I think things start crystallizing and say, okay, I've got to get out. I can impact more people around the world doing this than selling software.
Yes.
I maybe impact 20 people selling software. I can impact millions.
So how'd you make that transition from selling software to impacting millions?
I had to give my wife certainty. That was the one thing. We were doing pretty well, right? And her biggest concern was, health insurance, right? We're going to go backwards. Are you crazy, right? Something happened to your brain while this is going on, right? I mean, the whole thing, right? But the moment she got it, there's two moments she got it. First one happened about a year and a half after this situation, where one of her friends is a minister at a Presbyterian church in Gastonia, North Carolina. She called and asked my wife, Terry, if I would speak on Palm Sunday. And Palm Sunday is a pretty big Sunday. I don't know what anybody's churches are. I mean, our church is a big Sunday. It's one of the biggies, right? You show up.
That's right. Palm Sunday, Easter.
That's right. You show up. So I told my wife, I said, I'll do it for Joan, but you have to come hear me speak. She had not heard me speak. So she agreed. That's the way I was my hooks. She came out. We did this little thing. And all of a sudden, I have this picture that's called God's hands. I've got actually sitting right here. It's God's hands holding the plane up. I have the real one that I was given as a gift by a Baptist church. And I set it down here. So the service begins. And all of a sudden, I hear the hymn. And also, I start crying like a baby. I mean, I am bawling.
Wow.
And my daughter's like, Dad, man up. Come on, man. Cry all the time. Like, get your act together, right? Like, yeah, I'm embarrassed, right?
That's right.
We're sitting in front of everybody, right? We're up here with the choir, right? All right. But what happened is I got up to do the sermon, and and this picture of God's hands right here. And I get to this point, and all of a sudden, 6-7 minutes into this, 8 minutes into this thing, these two little boys get up, go out. I said, they're out of here. I was a little boy. I'd do anything to get out of church, right? Anything.
Sure.
I got to have a smoke, wash my hands, wash my hair, anything to get out of the sermon.
Yeah, right.
It took a hard right to sit in front of this picture right here. I'm giving the sermon, and these kids are right here, and everybody's like getting really quiet, like,
oh wow,
because you don't know what 8 or 9-year-old boys are going to do.
Never.
And all of a sudden, one of them looked at it and said, "This is a miracle." And all of a sudden, the other boy looks up and says, "He's a miracle man."
Oh wow. And
all of a sudden, people got really quiet. They just went back to no big deal, right? Not to them, it's no big deal. So I look at my wife and now she's crying, and the minister's crying. And that's what she had to see. Why does Dave do what he does? See, at that moment, you don't know where this moment's going to take this child, right?
Nope.
You hope they believe there's a Jesus.
Yes.
But at least in that moment they did, and she saw that I impacted a child. And that's when she started letting me to do it. But it took her about 4 years till I figured out how to do it.
Yeah.
And once I put those two things together, she allowed me to do it.
That's amazing. So what have been some of the challenges as you've lived into this transition? Now it's become a transformation for you because you're not selling software.
No, it's, I think the biggest learning experience, there's two big learning experiences. Number one is I was pretty judgmental. And I realized through a couple circumstances that, you know what, I had no basis to judge people. I saw people judging people, and I was one of those people judging people. And I said, I have no basis to judge this person. And I started thinking, how many times in my life have I judged somebody so quickly? That have I cut off relationships, careers? How many times have I shut down my life because I started being judgmental? I said, unless I know somebody's background, I'm going to be less judgmental. And also that opened up everything in my life. Now I'm going places all over the world. I did a movie last year, and my team was like, do you really want to do this movie? I said, I don't know, but I'm going to do it. It's called Be Who You Are. And it was a couple of folks who were homosexual doing this. And they asked me to go do the premiere in Philadelphia, and do the red carpet thing. And I was like, I guess I actually, it was really going to be tight, so I didn't do it. But it was like, my team was afraid that I'd be caught in a situation. I'm like, you know what? These people love God too. Right?
Yes.
So I think that was one thing that really sort of said. But the second thing is my wife, is that, she didn't get a lot of response from my company and support. And she realized that if I did this, I had to be able to do the whole everything. And one thing I did really well is I could drive revenue. I was a sales guy. But I didn't know the back end because I never had to do the back end, the receivables, payables, all this stuff.
Right.
I got myself hung out a little bit. So that's probably the biggest challenge that I've learned. I've had to be a business person, not just a sales guy.
Absolutely. So how did your faith really shape your response to those two challenges?
I think, once you go through this, I told Rick Warren this in the interview. I said, this is a strong reference for me for faith, knowing that, hey, listen, if I have faith and if I pray, God's grace is going to shine on me some way. One of the things I realize is if you give, you give out, it comes back tenfold somewhere. It may not come back financially.
Right.
It may come back in meeting people, opportunities, or just impacting somebody's life. So I live now with a focus on gratitude and contribution, which I thought I did before, but that's why I do what I do for the Red Cross. I've helped them raise millions of dollars because it's a way to give to people if somebody's going to go through a traumatic life experience. And that's where my shift in my career has gone from plane crash survivor to, it's called basically helping people grow from traumatic life experiences. And that's what I did my TED Talk on, and that's when all of a sudden everything in a different direction.
Right. So you live grateful for each day and seeking ways to contribute to the lives of others.
However it's going to be, God puts me in places he wants me to go. I have every prayer. Just give me one more chance to speak. Send me wherever, like the hymn in the Methodist hymnal said, it's send me wherever, God, right? Whom shall I send, right?
Right.
I mean, I'll go to Eastern West Virginia if I have to, right?
So you raise your hand and say, here am I.
Here am I. Here I am.
Oh, that's beautiful, Dave. I appreciate that. Gratitude and a contribution to make to the lives of others. Man, if all of Faith Positive Nation just lived by those two tenets alone, what an amazing place the world would be. So throughout your journey from that experience there on the Hudson to now where you find yourself sharing your testimony as well as helping others transition from traumatic experiences, has there been a Bible verse that really drove you, that really was kind of that key verse that you just clung on to?
Well, there's a couple that really started resonating with me. And I'm always the one, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That's the one I hung with through all the challenges, right? I can do all this, but the other one is putting the armor of God on, the passion about part of, because that's what I started realizing, I'm putting all these pieces of armor on for God. Somebody's going to come after you, and because they came after Jesus, right?
Absolutely, they
Talk
did.
too much, right? You spout too much, somebody who's not a believer is going to come after you. I actually did a sermon about putting the armor of God on. And this is one of the things that's happening. I think after this, I start putting pieces of all this stuff together, right? And it's like the pieces were like the armor.
Yes.
So, when things get tough, it's like, okay, what do I got to pull off of this? Where's this going to go, right? So I think that's now sort of the one I sort of fall back on when people start coming at you, and they will come at you. If you're a believer, they'll come after you. I don't care who you are.
Absolutely, because we live in a broken, negative world, and we're all flawed human beings, and we get threatened when God gets that close, right?
Right.
Man, Dave, somebody in Faith Positive Nation is going to want to reach out to you. How's the best way to do that?
Well, if they would check my website out at davesandersonspeaks.com, it's probably the best way. Okay. I don't have an assistant right now, and everything comes straight to me, but you get a lot of information there, and I interact with everybody. There's no filters. There's no filters between me and them. That's the best way.
Yeah, and I know you and I are connected on LinkedIn, so there's another great way to get in touch with you. DaveSandersonSpeaks.com, that URL is in your episode copy, Faith Positive Nation. And then you've written a book, right, that we can buy on Amazon?
I have. I was very honored to do it. It's called Moments Matter. And I have another 30 seconds to tell you how that came about, because I wanted to do a book. But I had one of these faith experiences that sort of opened my eyes. And what happened was my wife, she called me one day. We had a neighbor down the street, two ladies, that called my wife, said, can you help us turn the TV on? Now, the two elderly ladies, they're neighbors, right? And you'll do anything for your neighbor, right?
Yes.
So she called me right here. I was sitting right here, actually. She called me with this phone right here, said, can you go help them turn their TV on? And I tell people, I'm pretty good at turning TVs on. I know how to do TVs, right? Yeah. I was down there doing turning the TVs on, no big deal. I said, will you stay for milk and cookies? I said, of course. Who's going to turn down milk and cookies from a couple older ladies who can probably bake, right?
Not me, man. I love cookies.
Hey, listen, so I'm sitting there waiting, and all of a sudden I look at some books they had on their coffee table, and there are pictures of concentration camps. And I'm like, I love World War II history. I love it. So when they walk out with these milk and cookies, I said, what are these? They said, well, we were there. And all of a sudden they rolled their sleeves up. I saw the numbers.
Oh, wow.
I said, whoa. I said, you got to tell me the story. Let me record it. Said, we don't record it. No, well, I'll tell you, you can't record it. And that's when I realized when my former assistant said, you have to record this for your grandkids and great-grandkids. You may not be around. Wow. So that's what Moments Matter came from. Because I had experience with these two elderly ladies, right? Because they're dead now. They're passed on. That story is gone. I said, this story's got to live someplace. And that's why I wrote the book, Moments Matter.
So Faith Positive Nation, you can go to Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, BNN.com, and you can pick up a copy of Moments Matter. It's an intriguing story. It's riveting, just like Dave Sanderson. Dave, thanks so much for being our guest today on Faith Positive Radio. Pray God's blessings on you and Terry and all that you do, man, and as you're out there speaking to people. We pray that the Holy Spirit puts words in your mouth that will bring people to Christ. And we just thank you for your service. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you very much, Joey.
Thanks for listening to Faith Positive Radio, the Christian business coaching conversation that increases your faith with greater joy at work so you love God and others more. Suggest guests and ask questions when you email Dr. Joey at info@getpositive.today. And be sure to get your free gift of the 5 positive business conversations to have today coaching program at getpositive.today. Until next time, may God bless you with everything your heart can hope for and more than your mind can imagine.